Yo, what's up, y'all? This is Adam and Mason here with Assemblage Beverage Podcast. If you're looking for a sponsorship, please hit us up. We would love to shout you out here at Assemblage. And now, on to our podcast.
Yes, Sirski. We're back.
What's up?
Episode.
What's up?
What's going on, Mason? How you doing, man?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
I'm doing fantastic.
That's good.
We're back with
Episode
it. We're back with episode 41.
sick.
Sick.
I
We're
can't believe
past the
it.
40 episode. We're not drinking 40s tonight, but instead
Class.
we're not. We've picked it up a little bit. We're
Yeah.
talking about a little bit classier of a topic, so we decided to pick up the class with our beverage. Not that 40s aren't classy, but we're picking it up just a tinge.
I don't know if 40s are anyone's classy, especially if you're going to play that Edwards 40 hand.
Yeah, I still think episode 80 we need to do an Edward 40 hands podcast.
That's fine, and literally drink the whole thing on the podcast, and when we're done, we smash them together and go,
Yeah.
and that's the podcast. Cut it right then and there.
Christ.
That would be
Mason,
hilarious.
what are you drinking tonight on episode 41?
Yeah, episode 41, just a little Weller Green Label. Simple. I started off with a heavy pour for myself, of course. That's just what I enjoy. A few ice cubes to bring it down, equal it out.
Nice.
And when I sip on it, I kind of try to pull out the ice cubes faster as well, because I don't want it to get watered down too fast. But I do like really cold beverage, and then I also like to chew on that ice. You know what I'm saying?
A little crispy.
A little crispy. What are you
Crispy
sipping on?
Well, I was gonna be sipping on something different, which is gonna kind of lead into our first little topic today. But I'm drinking a little tequila soda, Mi Familia Flores Reposado Tequila. Pretty cool
Okay.
bottle. Got it this weekend. For those of you watching, pretty cool bottle. This top part was actually full of tequila, which was my first drink out of the bottle. It's got like
Nice.
a cool like rubber stopper.
Can you turn it upside down and fill it up?
You can, but you'd have to pull out it's got like a little rubber stopper in it. So
Gotcha.
you have to like pull that out and then flip it over. And then you really wouldn't be able to stop it. So I'm not really sure how. Yeah, I'm not sure. But yeah, it's pretty good tequila. But it was not what I had in mind this weekend when I was going to buy tequila. But so today, I don't even think we introduced the actual podcast. Today, episode 41 of the Assemblage Beverage Podcast is called Luxury, Elixir, or Loser. And today we're going to be kind of talking about Lux brands, both on the wine side, the spirit side, what brands we think are worth the price and what brands we could maybe do without or, that are slightly overrated. And I think we're going to kind of battle it out on some of these. I think we're not calling shots, but I think that there's some that maybe will cut a little bit deep. So
we'll see.
We'll kind of, we'll dive into that. But yeah, so I went to Total Wine this weekend, which love Total Wine. I went for the first time maybe a month ago, and I was like, wow, this is sweet, because I hear a lot of people talking crap about Total Wine, and they're like, oh, it's a big box store. It is, but they have some really fantastic, like high-end luxe brands. Some really cool old vintage stuff, first growth Bordeaux. I mean, crazy selection. At least the Total Wine that I go to.
They've got that budget,
Yeah, they've got big budgets. So I went in and I wanted to buy a bottle of Clase Azul. I've always wanted to buy a bottle. Love Clase Azul. And it was in like a lock case. So, Olivia and I went and we were walking around the store and we picked up some High Noon seltzers, which they have the High Noon tequila seltzers now, which are phenomenal. If you've never had those,
really
good.
Definitely need to try that.
And I think they only sell it in a variety pack, and it's like 4 flavors, 2 of each. It's a
That's
little
it.
expensive. It's like $20 for 8 seltzers, but they're
Okay.
really, really good.
Okay. Well, I think it's worth trying.
Yeah,
You're also a not controlled state, right?
no, no,
Yeah. So
yeah,
you got that benefit.
yeah. So we can go. I mean, you've got to go to a liquor store to buy a liquor, but you can buy beer and wine at a grocery store.
Is the high noon at the grocery store, or
Mm-mm.
is it? Yeah, it's
No,
at the
you've
liquor
got to go to
store.
the liquor store. Yeah,
Damn.
because it's not.
Uh,
Whereas like a Truly or a Topo Chico or something is technically like a malt liquor or a malt
yeah.
beverage. It's you can buy that at the grocery store, but High Noon because it's vodka or tequila based, you have to buy it at the liquor store.
Damn.
So
All
yeah,
right.
yeah.
Making a trip to the ABC.
So we pick out the seltzers, and we go back to the tequila aisle, and they've got like a locked case that you have to push a button for someone to come unlock it and get the Clase Azul out of. So in the case, they've got a couple different Clase Azules. They got the Mezcal, they've got some extra añejo, they've got Don Julio 1942, and then they've got a bunch of other brands that I didn't recognize, but all look amazing. So I click the button and a guy comes over and he's like, "Oh, how can I help you?" I was like, "Oh, can I get a bottle of Clase Azul Reposado?" Very iconic bottle. It's got like the ceramic, with the white ceramic bottle with the blue like paint and then the metal top. And he immediately goes, "Yeah, if you want to waste your money." And and then
What?
and then immediately, so to preface this, I didn't tell Mason this story at all. I told him I had a story, but I didn't tell him what the story is. So he's hearing it for the first time too.
This is gonna be great. I love this.
So he goes, "Yeah, if you want to waste your money." And then he immediately starts talking on his headset because he's got the people at Total Wine all wear headsets. So then he starts talking about something else. So I'm like, wait, did he just say that to me? Like, if you want to waste your money to me, or is he talking to someone on the headset? Um, and I was like, oh, like, yeah. So if you can see Mason's little screen, that's Clase Azul. So really cool bottle. And I really like it. This guy obviously did not. And so I kind of was like, oh, excuse me. And he's like, yeah, if you want to throw your money away, I'll like get the Clase Azul for you. And I'm like, at this point, I'm like speechless. I'm like,
Got me
I was not
flabbergasted.
expecting that. I was not expected to get like fucking my whole day derailed at Total Wine over a bottle of Clase Azul. But so I'm like, okay, well, do you have something that you recommend? And he's like, yeah, Clase Azul and 1942 and these big brands, they use artificial flavors and, blah, blah, blah. You're paying for the marketing, yada, yada, yada. And I'm like, I understand. I know I'm paying for the bottle. I know I'm paying for the marketing. I know I'm paying for maybe like, I'm sure that there's higher quality tequilas out there for lower prices, but like, I want the bottle. I want the tequila inside, but I want the bottle. I've never bought a bottle of Clase Azul. It's something that you can like, even when it's empty, it looks great on a back bar.
Oh yeah.
And again, like I finally, not that I make a ton of money, but it's like I finally am at a point where it's like if I want to go buy it, I can, and it's not going to put me in a real like bad position. And I've been having like some good luck and all that kind of stuff. So I'm like, yeah, let's like get a bottle and celebrate. So he's like, yeah, like there's another brand which is the one I ended up buying. He's like, yeah, it's family owned and they grow the agave responsibly and all sorts of stuff. And I'm like, okay, cool, like that's fine. Like went to the over here and it was a third of the price, so I got to thank him for that because Class Azul I think was like $170 and this was $54. So did save some money. It is really high quality tequila, supporting a like more family owned thing, which is great, and I'm all about it. But I was just it. Then it had me
You're
thinking.
ashamed. You were shamed.
I was shamed. I was shamed out of buying Clase Azul, which in one regard I respect. I respect that as a salesperson because like I've probably done the same thing to other people. I
Was that
think
bottle less expensive too?
was what?
The bottle you actually bought less expensive than Casa Azul?
Yeah, the one I bought, this bottle here was $55.
All right.
And Clase Azul was like 165 or something like that.
Do
So
you recollect the flavor profiles of both? Do you think this is a superior product?
I mean it's just different.
Just different.
It's just different.
Okay.
You know, if I had them side by side, like I'd love to taste them side by side. You know, and who knows? Like maybe I like this better than Clase Azul, but again, I wanted it because, which goes against everything I always talk about. Is like, you know, you don't have to buy that like status thing, but like I just a part of me just wanted it, right?
Right.
Because it's such a cool bottle. Like I like the tequila, sue me, you know. So then I'm like thinking about it, and I'm in the car, and I'm like I'm shook at this point. I'm like, what the fuck just happened to me in there? Like, was I just shamed out of buying that?
And what did Liv say?
Because then at that point, like I'm not gonna be like, well, fuck you, buddy. Like, give me the bottle of Clase Azul out of there. Like, I just felt like it's just not meant to be. Like
Yeah.
now I feel like this Total Wine employee is gonna be judging me, which in the grand scheme of things, like it really,
Fucking.
like it really doesn't matter. Like he doesn't know who I am. You know, I can spend my money
Oh,
how I want to spend my money, but I was just like, man, like I'm also a big things happen for a reason person too.
yeah.
So I was like, well, maybe it's just not meant to be. Maybe he's looking out for me. And I was like, okay, I respect him as like a, you know, his tequila knowledge. He knows something that I didn't. He's sharing his wisdom. Maybe the way he shared his wisdom wasn't the right approach. He could have maybe said like, hey, you know, like I see you like you want this. Can I recommend something that I like a little bit better? It's made more sustainably, you know, that's a family owned business, blah blah blah, instead of like, oh yeah, if you want to throw your money away.
I think that
So
is just like a great line right there.
I
Yeah.
know, I
If you want to throw
know.
your money away, don't they work off a little bit of commission too at Total
And
One?
and that's my other point. Like I get it. Like you're trying to look out for your customers and all that kind of stuff. But like if I were his boss and I would be like, so you like, okay, you still sold something, right? That's great. But instead of selling something that's $165, you talked them into buying a $55 bottle.
Yeah.
Like
If,
from a number standpoint, like I don't know what their markup is on Clase Azul and what their markup is on this. Maybe they make more, you know, profit on this. I mean, they probably do.
no, I don't know. I feel like just from like the background, right? How you kind of purchase, probably making two times on Casa Azul, where they're making maybe four or five times on the bottle that you actually purchased.
Well, yeah, and I mean, typical markup for retail is 30%.
Right.
So, I mean, they're probably making 30% on everything. You know, they might drop a few percentage points here or there, but
Playing that sliding scale.
yeah, I just was like, I was shook. Like, I was
Ugh.
truly shook, and I was like, I don't even know what to like. I was like, I guess I'm buying this, and it's good. Like, I'm not complaining about it. Like, and it did save me $100, you know, which again is great. And
But
it
you were
goes,
ready to spend it.
yeah, I was ready to spend it. You know, and I don't like we've had this conversation before, and I have this conversation all the time. Like me spending $160 on a bottle of wine, easy, done. Me spending that much money on a bottle of liquor, which I know will last me months
Longer.
and months and months, where a bottle of wine will be gone, and you know you
One
could go
sitting.
through multiple in a night with you know in a like a party sense or whatever. But
Yep.
I'm like the one time I actually try to be a baller, I get shot down. Like maybe I'm just not
You're
meant to
not meant to
have
ball
nice
out.
things, you know.
No.
Which,
No.
yeah. So that's my total wine story. And then
I
it
love
kind of
that.
got me thinking, like, well, let's, because we were gonna kind of do this podcast on like high end wine, and I was like, well, let's just kind of talk about Lux brands and are they really worth their weight or worth their price?
Yeah.
So Mason, when it comes to Lux brands, like what exactly do you think you're paying for when you're paying those steep prices for these expensive tequilas or wines or bourbons?
Yeah. Well, I think depends on what part of the life of that Lux brand is at, right? Because I think we, as in the beverage world or the hospitality world, find those hidden gems. We find them early, right? And we're so excited about them, and they're just become so cool and like so niche, and like not very many people really know about it, and they're just like super fantastic for this low price. And that's how all of them start.
Mm-hmm.
Every single one, Casa Azul, uh, what George Clooney's
Casamigos,
Casamigos, you know,
Blanton's.
Blanton's, Weller, um, Wines specifically,
Mm-hmm.
Screaming Eagle. Like so, the list can go on and on and on. To be honest, but like all these brands start off amazing, right? Perfect little gems, perfect price, and then they get known by more and more people, and then just get basically advertised and watered down, and maybe not actually watered down like physically, but like you know what I'm saying, like watered down in their known and style, and so they don't produce the way that they were producing. I think like what is the big Napa Valley brand right now that Camus,
Yeah.
Camus, Camus, right? Amazing, absolutely blown out of the water kind of wines from 2008 and before. And then after that, I think it became really well known and just kind of it, still good, but big, juicy
Mm-hmm.
red wines, not as finesse, not as much human touch as they had beforehand, in which it just became something fantastic for the general population instead of fantastic for the world, if that
Yeah.
makes sense.
Yeah, and I think it's almost like a case of just getting too big for your britches.
Yeah,
And kind of with fame comes wanting more fame and making
right.
more money and doing more. And when you get into that cycle, it's a very vicious cycle. And you just keep having to, okay, how can we make more money? And usually that's cut costs and charge more,
And you
which
have to
is,
sacrifice something. And
mhm, and a lot of the times that's quality.
right.
Quality in product or quality in how you actually like treat your staff, how you treat your employees, how you treat the environment that you're making it in. And it
Yeah,
almost just becomes like, this is my playground, and yeah, I'm going to make as much money as I can by charging the most and trying to cut the cost of how much it makes, whether that's in raw material or in labor.
yeah.
Um, and I think that that's kind of, it's really sad. But it's also a business. So I understand
Both sides.
both sides of it. Like, I wish I didn't. I wish I was like one sided, like, oh, fuck these brands. Like, once you kind of make it big and you start like, but I don't care who you are. If you're in a position where you have something that a lot of people want, and you can capitalize it and make your life better, and your family and all that kind of stuff, like, it would be hard for you to say you wouldn't do the same thing.
Right. I I don't think I could ever say I would do the same. I wouldn't do the same thing.
Yeah, I
Like
mean,
I'm
there's
a guy
levels to
that
it.
right, but like I'm a guy that wants to make a lot of money in my life, right? And if I'm in that kind of situation where I'm building something fantastic and I have to, you know, cut quality very little at a time until like the general idea is this, right? And our perfect like tequila is this, right? And the general production is this, and it's just slightly shifting this way to where it's not as great, right? It's just like the general population will never understand the perfectness, and it's a-okay because it's always been slowly changed, and
Right.
so everybody's palate has changed with it and just understands the brand itself as it's evolved.
Yeah, I mean it's a slippery slope for sure, and like, not saying that I would sell out, and I don't think that's what you're saying either, because again,
Mm-mm.
it's a very fine line, but also in making money and in the world that we live in, not that money is everything, but money is super important, right? So
Yeah,
you need money to buy things,
everything.
and unfortunately, things like I go back and forth because it's so much like money can't buy you happiness. I I
A jet
disagree
ski
with
makes
that.
me pretty happy.
I disagree with that because I think to a certain
That
point,
would.
what'd you say?
A jet ski would make me pretty happy, you
Yeah,
know?
and you need
that,
money
that
to
that
buy jet
does.
ski,
Right.
right?
It's the dumb jokes, right? It's
Yeah,
like I I see what you're saying. It's like at a certain point, money will no longer make me happy. But when you're at this low level to the higher level, yeah, you'll make a huge difference. Like if I can take vacations and time off and
hmm
go spend and have a bigger house and enjoy, the luxuries of life more often, yeah, my life is better. I'm going to be happier. But at a certain point, money no longer makes you happy,
yeah,
for
yeah.
sure.
Again, there's levels to it, right? There's
Yeah.
levels with everything. So I think that again, it's kind of a slippery slope, and these Lux brands, not many brands start off like we are going to be a Lux brand. I mean, I'm sure that there's some out there, but a lot of them just kind of like gain steam and kind of gain that recognition and fame, and then they grow into what they are today, 1942, Classe Azul, things like that.
Yeah.
Um, well, so Mason, kind of talk me through like what are some luxury brands or luxe brands that you still appreciate, even though they're a high price point, and it's not saying that we drink these all the time, but things
No,
that
no,
you've
very
had,
little.
yeah, very little. And I think that's kind of what makes us chase it and what makes us want to go back and have it again, because we aren't wealthy.
Yeah.
Like we still that like we both are very like mid tier, mid range income level. So it's like these high end brands, like we can't just go out and buy them without feeling like some sort of like financial like yeah, that $160 bottle of Clase Azul isn't gonna like put me in debt, but it's also I'm gonna be like oof, like I'm gonna see that on my credit card statement and be like,
I shouldn't have bought
did I
that.
really need that?
Right.
Obviously I didn't, but
But you did.
yeah,
But
what
you
are
didn't because you didn't actually purchase it, so it
exactly,
doesn't matter.
exactly. So what are some Lux brands that you still mess with?
You know, those beautiful, like, first growth Bordeaux's and, like, definitely could say Chateau Yquem and that kind of brand status, like, all the way around. And then spirit wise, it's not like super expensive, but still like the Weller brands are
hmm
all kind of put you out a little bit. Things like that that just like super appreciative for. They make a really great product. It's something I always want to drink, but can almost never afford. Or if I do budget accordingly for it, then I really had to put aside a lot of money. You
hmm
know, producers like Mouton Rothschild and Lafitte Rothschild specifically are like those really really top tier high end producers that like everybody wants, and you only get really like 1-2 shots in the world to really try them. I feel like because of how quickly they price you out,
hmm
especially once you sell from the producer, then to the distributor, then to the restaurant, then to us as the guest
Yep.
coming in to enjoy it. And it's just like that markup, 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 markup makes it ridiculous sometimes, especially when you get to those really old years now. And it's just like you're seeing these bottles at like 2,500 or more,
Yeah, or more.
sometimes even. And you're like, yo, I'm never going to be able to afford that. And like working in the restaurant industry gave you the opportunity to try it when you
Mm-hmm.
opened it for somebody that purchased it. But that was really like the things that you're like, "Ooh." You get your like 10 buddies together just to buy that one bottle to just try it and get like 2 ounce pour of it and really enjoy that 2 ounce pour. But it came with a hefty price,
Yeah, I
you
mean
know?
that's what me and a handful of friends did with. We did a tasting of Mouton Rothschild and Lafitte Rothschild, and I think there was 8 of us that all came together. And I mean, we had other wines too, but we basically everyone brought a bottle, and then everyone had to pay a certain amount, and with that certain amount, you basically everyone got a 2 ounce pour, or no, I'm sorry, a 3 ounce pour of each wine. Um,
Beautiful, but like so minuscule.
but I will say, like, I'm with you, Mason. Like Mouton Rothschild and Lafitte Rothschild, like they're. I was skeptical because you read a lot about it, and I was the one who actually like went out and bought the wines,
Right.
and then like other, they everyone paid me back, but those 2 bottles put me out $1,500 for 2 bottles of wine, which is still
Crazy.
like the most I've ever spent on bottles of wine. Was
That's
they were
in,
both 750.
and that's just retail. Like that ain't, that's not in the restaurant either, which is just like where they mark it up again another three, 4 times,
Well,
whatever
and
it
this
is.
was this was actually a buddy of mine. He is a beverage director in a private club in Chicago, so he actually sold it to me at cost.
So like, dang, so like that's what he bought it from the
Yep,
distributor, which again is less than what you would buy it from the store
yep.
if you were to go to the store.
So I got a deal, if you will.
Damn.
Yeah, which a deal at $750, like that's not a deal. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, I'm not saying that that's a good purchase, but I will say that the wine was phenomenal. Like, it held up to what it was supposed to, and like I was so worried about it because I'm like, well, the money's already spent. We've already opened the wine. Like at this point, it is what it is. Like it's either going to be great or it's going to be a disappointment. Like
Right.
because it can't just be wow, that was a really great bottle of wine. Like if I'm going to put up that much money, I want it to blow my socks off, which it did. Like we decanted it for like 3 hours. We had a O2 Lafitte and an O4 Mouton, and this was in 2021. And I mean, they were both like absolutely stunning. We did like a whole night where we watched Some Into the Bottle when they went to Lafitte Rothschild. So we like watched the
Yeah.
documentary and then like had a French themed dinner that we paired the wines with, and like, I mean,
That's
it was
fantastic.
it was a great night, and like that memory with those friends, and like we talk about it all the time, right? How wine and how beverages can kind of like bring people together and create memories. And again, that's just like one of those memories that no one can take away from me. Like, yeah, put us out money, but also it's not like I spent all that money myself and then shared it with people. It's like we all pitched in, we all kind of brought something to the table, which was kind of a fun thing.
Yeah.
Um,
Definitely, I think the way alcohol was meant to be enjoyed, or
mhm.
most things that are like that, is sharing it with others to make memories. Something
Yeah,
specifically you always pull back on and talk about
yeah,
forever. Like nobody will ever take that away from you.
yeah, and again, I agree with you. Chateau d'Yquem. I've only had it once, and I think you've only had it once too. Um,
A couple times,
oh, you've
but
had it a couple times.
yeah. But the one that like sticks out the most was pre um, rehearsal dinner for me and my wife's wedding. My father-in-law bought out one of his bottles, and we shared it. Actually, he has like a few of them, but he brought out one specifically for us to all enjoy. And Chateau Yquem, I think it was in the '60s, from the '60s, and it was just like just absolutely blow your socks off, kind of like sweet wine, still zinging, like super acidic, but super refreshing and super sweet. And they're like, what the hell? My brain can't handle all these amazing flavors. And you just like, you literally want to just gulp it all down. But like, you know, it always comes in like a half bottle, so you
Yeah.
know you already have it at less with sweet wines. Then you have pour even less of it. And you just like very slowly sip on it. Man, that was one hell of a bottle. Like, I cannot say thank you enough to Kenny, my father-in-law, for doing that. It's just like, wow. But
Yeah.
like, and I'm sorry that you missed it. Like,
Hey, we can't always be there when we have these experiences, but it's still like we can share the stories, and to me that's like
so much part of it.
not as good as sharing it together, but it's still like it's cool that we're each having these experiences, and we can come together and share kind of our own experiences with that. And
Yeah.
I've only had Chateau de Yquem once, and it was actually I guess it was back in January, and I think it was in '06 or in '09, and had it at a restaurant with some friends, and like it was phenomenal. I think it was $50 for a 2-ounce pour. Um, no, it was more. It was $65 for a 2-ounce pour. But we were all employees at a sister like restaurant, so we got 50% off. So like it was 30 some bucks for the pour.
Worth it.
Actually, it might have even been more. It might have been 95 a pour, and then we got it for 50. I don't know.
Yeah.
It was expensive for 2 ounces of juice.
Yeah.
But I mean, again, it was like I love Sauterne and I love dessert wine, like in small quantities with dessert. Um, and it was just so complex, so like so much dried apricots, dried fruit, like honey, and oh, it's just so good. Then it's something that like for me to go buy a half bottle for 200 and some dollars, it's just it's steep, and it's something that you really need to share with a handful of people because you're all only going to have a couple ounces of it. Like
And then
you're really
that's
not
that
going to want to
memory.
sit there and drink a whole bottle of Sauterne. Like it's just not that you can't, but it's really
Yeah.
sweet.
It's so sweet. But
Yeah,
could I? Definitely. Do I
yeah,
want
yeah.
to? No. It's always worth sharing. Every
Exactly,
time.
exactly.
Everybody that tries it is always blown away.
Yeah, and I will say I'll probably get some hate for this one, but Cristal, the champagne Cristal, I
Yeah.
I also have
I've never
like
had Cristal.
I've had it a couple times.
Okay.
And the first bottle I ever had was actually an engagement gift from our good friend back in Indiana, Grant. And he gave Olivia and I a bottle of 2007 Cristal. And we drank it over like a long weekend. And I mean, it was just the wine was amazing, but it was also like just one of those things where you're in like a very like nothing can go wrong like headspace,
Yeah.
which I'm sure made the wine better than it actually was. So I think that's kind of where I come from, and I've had it a couple times since then. Like, and it is a very very good champagne. Is it something I would spend my money on right now? Probably not, because a bottle of Cristal is like $300-ish. Um, and it's just like, and especially after my Total Wine experience, like I'm not buying
Don't
any
want to get
luxury brands
shamed.
now. Like no, like and definitely not at Total Wine. Like shit,
uh,
I just wanted to buy my tequila in peace, and I got shamed for it. So no more nice stuff for me.
hey, it's
No,
okay.
but I mean Cristal, like it is really high quality. It's a Louis Roederer's like top tier champagne, and it is really good. However, I think Blue Rotor makes a collection 242, 243, I think is out now, and it's like $60 a bottle. That is a really high quality champagne for the price. So
Okay.
if you want it, and basically when they make the collection 242, 243 out of the grapes that don't quite cut it for Cristal. So you're
That's
basically
cool. You get
getting
Cristal without getting it.
right, like a slightly lower tier Cristal, if you will.
Yo, that again, we talked about it. Little gems. This
Mm-hmm.
is something we're making it known, and it'll be more known, and then that brand will be just as expensive as Cristal, maybe slightly under,
Yeah.
but may not be as reasonable as it's supposed to be.
And again, $60 for a bottle of champagne, like it may sound like a lot, but unfortunately, in the world of champagne, that's
Not at
kind of
all.
like the tip of the iceberg as far as like you're buying stuff that's starting to get a little bit higher quality because kind
Right.
of anything under, I hate to say it because I mean there's grower champagnes out there that are like 30, $40 that are fantastic, but
Well, like we could talk about like Dom Perignon and Veuve Clicquot, right? The two of them, very different and very different in price point as well. Both, I feel like, at least I feel like, are very well known,
mm-hmm,
and both hit completely differently. Like when you try it, when you enjoy it, when you purchase it, who it's like advertised for, like Vouv specifically, like more of that reasonable price. I think it's
mm-hmm.
like 50 or $60 in the grocery store right now, or whatever
Something
it
like
is.
that, yeah.
Yeah, it's not too expensive, but personally, not my favorite. Like I would probably not choose to purchase it if I have another
Mm-hmm.
champagne right next to it. Right?
Right,
That's just
especially at
personal.
that price point too.
Yeah, it's like it's expensive. Like that, not that it's expensive, but like it's a lot of money to spend on a champagne, and when you can find a better champagne, like your Cristal,
Yeah, the Louis
other
Rotor,
Louis
yeah,
Roeder, right?
or
Like
even like Charles Heidsieck, again, same price and like much higher quality champagne. And
or
again,
Laura Hair
there's
Ferrer, like our house
yeah,
champagne, like
yeah,
fantastic fucking champagne, and
mm-hmm,
it's absolutely amazing and same price, all
yeah.
crazy.
And again, there's so many great grower champagnes out there that like I don't know names off the top of my head, but like that is something that you can get really high quality wine for a lot less price because again, you're not paying for the marketing. You're paying more for the family to make wine, right? And not
Yeah,
necessarily like for their multi-million dollar marketing campaigns that they're putting Super Bowl ads out or advertising on the internet, right? Like
right. You're right.
you're paying for the actual wine and not for all the other stuff that doesn't actually make the wine taste any better. Which I think that kind of, now we're kind of talking about things that we think are overrated. Obviously, Veuve Clicquot. You mentioned Dom Perignon. I agree with you, and I used to be like a huge Dom Perignon fan. Like that was always my wine when I was like first getting into it that I like wanted to have, right? That was like my okay, this is ultra luxury champagne. Like it's got such an iconic label. Um and it's just
Beautiful, like crown, like
mhm.
label.
And it used to be expensive but still reasonable. Like it
Right.
used to be like 160 to $180 a bottle, which again still really expensive. Now I saw it's like 260. So it's
Well,
basically gone up $100 in the last like 2 years.
and like they have also paired with like iconic people like Lady Gaga and made like a specific b-
Mm-hmm.
bottle for that person. Like there was a pink labeled one, I think, which is a rosé for Lady Gaga, and it was
Mm-hmm.
like shiny and pink, and I thought it was cool looking, and I almost purchased it. And when I was going to purchase it, it was going to be like $100 a bottle. And I was like, that's reasonable. I feel like. Well, I went back and checked like a month or two ago, and I was looking at this bottle like a year or two ago. And I look back, and now they're selling the same bottle for like $250, $300. I'm like,
Yeah.
what the hell has happened?
Yeah.
It's kind of ridiculous. Like over that little bit of time, it's just exploded.
Yeah, they've really cranked up the price, and it's they're still like I still like Dom. It's not that I don't like it. If
Right.
someone were to pour me a glass, and that's kind of any of these brands, right? Like if
Right.
anyone were to say, "Hey, here's a glass of Veuve Clicquot," I'm not going to be like, "Fuck you, I'm not drinking that." Like, of course, I'm going to be like, "Okay, cool, yeah, like thanks, like I
Yeah,
appreciate
I'll
it."
enjoy it.
And same with Dom, like, if someone opens a bottle, I'm gonna be like, oh shit, like we're balling tonight. Like, yeah, I'm all about drinking it, but I don't feel the need to go out and buy it as much anymore. I will say I had Dom P2 2004 like a couple months ago. I was working an
And
event for work, and they were pouring that to pair with Petrosian caviar. And unfortunately, I was on like the working side of it, but
mm,
I did sneak a taste of the '04 Dom
and
P2. It was good, but
it
again,
hit.
P2 is $400, I think, a bottle. So again, it was good, but I don't think I would spend 400
$400.
or $500. I forget how much it is. I mean, it's just a lot to spend on a bottle of wine.
But if somebody was pouring it for you, of course, drink as
Fuck yeah,
much as it.
fuck yeah.
Yeah.
And then kind of my last like overrated brand, and I think we're gonna disagree
A little
slightly on
touchy.
this.
A little touchy.
Yeah, for me it's Don Julio 1942, but I like I'm torn because
Rip off that
it's
band-aid.
basically the same price as Clase Azul, right?
Right.
So and he put this salesperson that I was talking about earlier, and he put them both in the same camp, right? He was like, well, 1942 Clase Azul, they have additives, blah blah blah. You're paying for the marketing, which I know, like I'm not an idiot. Like I know what I'm buying, and I think that maybe he just didn't realize, like that I'm in the beverage space and like I know what I'm buying, which maybe makes it worse that I'm still buying it because I know.
I don't know.
I
That's
don't
true
know.
or
Now
not.
I'm just overthinking it, but
Yeah, I think it's all up here right now.
yeah, I'm still rattled from being shamed.
Yeah,
So
you know what?
my
This
mind's
will be a
just
story
frazzled.
forever,
Yeah,
so it's okay.
my mind's scrambled. I was all in a tizzy at work today. I didn't know what was up and what was down. But again,
Uh,
Don Julio 1942, and I know that you're a fan. I'm not saying it's bad. It's just for the price, I think there's a lot better tequilas out there.
you
I
know,
mean, just
I,
like Clase Azul. I mean,
I,
I know that
I,
there's
I,
better.
I hate to say this out loud, but I understand and agree that there are a lot better tequilas out there for the price than 1942.
Yeah.
But does it have as big of a name and of rolling price and of a known quality and blah blah blah? No. But again, we're on that shifting scale of where is this in its lifespan,
Right.
right?
Right.
It's probably for me right now, like if Prime was here, it's probably halfway through Prime, right?
Yeah.
And so it'll get out of there shortly, next 10 so years, but between now and then, it'll still produce a fantastic fucking one or tequila.
Yeah. And I mean, you had it at your wedding, and like,
Yeah,
I still,
poured,
huh?
poured. Gosh, bro.
Yeah. I still had some. Like, I'm not gonna say again because I just promoted Clase Azul, and like, I would probably put Clase Azul in 1942. Like, I mean, they're right. They're basically both doing the same exact thing. Like,
Yeah. Well, like 1942, no matter what, how far it goes down, will unfortunately, fortunately, have a soft spot in my heart forever because that was the tequila that I took a shot of before walking down the aisle to marry my wife. So,
yeah.
you know, it's always going to have a special part here. You know
Yeah,
what I'm saying?
and I feel bad. Like, and again, I'm not hating on it, but
No, I understand
I
it.
think you understand where
Again,
I'm going with it,
yeah,
and it's the same. Like, again, I'm promoting these other luxury brands, and not really promoting, but saying like I still mess with them. When in reality, they're all doing the same thing. That's not great. It's just which pick your poison, right? Like who do you still want to support and who do you think is not doing it for the right reasons? It's just it's a messed up system, but it
Yeah,
is what it is.
it is.
I wanted to
Well,
circle back on Class A as well because I know you mentioned you had a story for me.
why don't we go into the question of the day as well, and
Oh,
I'll
okay.
I'll answer that with that.
Mm, mm, okay.
Which the question of the day is, what's your Lux brand story? And for me, Casa Azul is one of my favorite Lux brand stories. Again, thankfully, being in the beverage world or the hospitality world, I have got that um, leg up, I guess is the best way to describe it, and had the opportunity to have tried and or have had many experiences with a lot of Lux brands. But Casa Azul is one of the ones that I think is very fun. That like when I think of that bottle, this is the memory that pops up, and it's funny because that was your story, and um, my memory came up, and I hadn't thought about that like in a really long time, and it just kind of you know you think of the bottle, and then all of a
Mm-hmm.
sudden there's your memory. But mine was I was at this party with a bunch of friends and whatnot, and I was just really starting to get into tequila. I was second year CIA, um, just about to graduate kind of status. Like we were right about there from associates, not even
Mm-hmm.
bachelor's yet, and was at this beautiful Halloween party with all the friends and whatnot. And one of my buddies bought this bottle and kept it behind the bar, hidden the entire party, and like just wanted to celebrate at the very end. And I don't know why he kept it hidden for so long.
Was I
And then
there or no?
no, no,
Okay.
no,
I was
no,
like, I don't remember this, but that
no, no,
doesn't
no.
mean anything because we all
Yeah,
heard my 40 hand story.
exactly. But like, we had these a blast. Everybody was having a good time. Everybody was drinking. It was at this like multi-level house. So like, there was multiple levels, and on each level were different Halloween decoration and or game related things to Halloween per level, which was just a blast of a thing. And then for some reason, like the dance party ended up in the basement portion, and everybody was having a good time. And for some reason, everybody in my friend group at that time that was at the party sat down at the same time in the same area. And the buddy who was hosting it goes, sitting in his perfect chair, and goes, "I've got a surprise." And he pulls the Casa Azul from under him and sets it in front of everybody. And I'm like, "No way." And then he pulls out on the other side all the plastic cups so that everybody can take a shot all together. Pours it off for everybody. Everybody takes a shot, and then he lets it go to the party so that everybody can enjoy. I remember taking the shot, being like, "Oh my gosh, this is the most amazing tequila ever!" And then everybody starts to get up and start raging, and then all of a sudden, I'm like, "Oh, oh," and I have to take a step up the stairs, and then blackout, puked out, and that was the end of my night right then and there.
Yep.
But Casa Azul, right there for you.
Yeah.
What's your story? Besides
Yeah.
maybe your total wine.
Yeah. For me, mine's probably like an overrated story, right? So I was bartending in Chicago, and I was a relatively new bartender. I'd been a bar back for a little bit, and I worked my ass off, and they finally promoted me, and I was kind of bartending even though I was a bar back, and they're finally like, okay, fine, we'll pay you as a bartender. So it was like one of my first shifts, and I was solo, like it was a Monday or something like that. So I'm there, and it's pretty slow, and this young lady sits down, and she's like, "Oh, do you carry Louis the 13th?" And I was like, "Yeah. I mean, we've got Louis the 13th. We've got Hennessy, Paradigm Paradise. I think I don't remember which one, but that's Hennessy's equivalent to Louis the 13th." And we had the Louis the 13th jigger, we had the crystal glasses, we had the special tray that you had to serve it on, and so I was like, yeah, like, do you want some? And we never really sold any because it was $125 for a half ounce. So you could do a half ounce, an ounce, or an ounce, or a half ounce, an ounce, or an ounce and a half. And you didn't get like a deal. Like it was $125 per half ounce. So even if you got an ounce and a half, it was still $375 for an ounce and a half.
Wild.
So yeah, which I was like, again, I was 21 or 22 and I was making like no money. So for my brain, like didn't understand how you could spend $125 on a half an ounce of alcohol when you could get what, like my brain's like,
Yeah.
you know how many High Lifes I could buy or how many like cheap bottles of shitty liquor I could buy for $125. Like that's where my headspace was at.
Right.
Now like I understand it, and like Louis the 13th is in like the glass is like Swarovski crystal, and like the bottle itself is worth $1,000 even with no alcohol in it.
Liquid in it. It's just ridiculous.
And a full bottle is like a $3,000 bottle of alcohol. Like it's insane. So anyway, she's like, oh, I'm a brand rep for Louis the 13th, and I would
Oh
love
shit.
to like have you. She's like, have you ever tried it? And I was like, no. Like I work here. I don't, and we're not allowed to like drink on the job, and we're sure as shit not allowed to sample Louis the 13th. So she she's like, oh, like, well, I'd love to buy you a half ounce so you could try it. And I'm like, and this job, we had a very strict no drinking on the job policy. So I went up to my manager, who's my friend, and I was like, hey, like, explain the situation. He's like, you say yes, you have her buy it, and then you pour it, and then just put it like on the shelf, and at the end of the night, like you can drink it, like because again, we're not supposed to drink, but again, like he's like, you're not going to tell her no because this might be the only opportunity you have to try this cognac. So, and he's like,
Sick.
and the other thing is like, I also want half of it. And I was like, that's totally fair. Like,
We're like,
I
yes.
really don't like cognac, so like, yeah, like I'll share it with you because he's like, I've never had it, and it was his beverage program. So we, pour it into the special little tulip glass, and all this stuff, and I thanked her and all that kind of stuff. And I think she bought like a half ounce for herself because again, it was all expense.
Right.
And so at the end of the night comes, and like he tastes it and gives it to me, and I taste it, and I was like, it's like, oof. I was like, that's kind of gross. And he
uh,
was like, oh, it's 100 years of cognac and blah blah blah. Because like Louis the 13th, I think the oldest cognac in it's like 100 years old. And he's just going on, and I'm just like, oof, like paid $125 for this shit, like that was my mindset back then. And that was kind of like my Lux brand story because it's probably like the most expensive like per ounce thing I've ever had in my life.
yeah.
And I'm like, ooh, I was not a fan. But
Right.
it was a
It
cool
happens.
story, and again,
Yeah.
I can say that I've tried it because a lot of people will never have that opportunity to try it. And like, I just happened to be working like right place, right time.
Yeah.
Um,
I think that is something special. Right
yeah,
place, right time.
yeah, and that's a lot of how everything works.
Yeah.
A lot of it's right place, right time. So,
Well,
well,
this has been fantastic.
yeah.
I've been loving talking about this. If you want to sponsor us, where to reach us. We are Assemblage Beverage Podcast. Adam and Mason Aronson, Adam Shoemaker, Mason Aronson. We're here for you. We want all of your love. We want to showcase you on this podcast. Adam, what else can we say?
I mean, the only thing left to do is to just smash the fucking subscribe button, and make sure you share the podcast because it really does mean a lot. Whether you share it the video version on YouTube, or you share the podcast version, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, all those good things. It really helps us out, and it gets us one step closer to getting a sponsorship, which kind of makes us make some money, which allows us to do some cool things, do some cool tastings, all that good stuff. So, just share all that good stuff. And if you want to support the brand, some new merch drop last week with our last podcast. We got both stickers. So we've got our
Those are so sick.
All About the 40 podcast stickers, as well as t-shirts. You can find those at www.assemblagebevco.com, and buy them, support the brand, wear a sweet t-shirt, or buy a little sticker. I've already got mine stuck to my laptop right next to my Miller High Life sticker, and it looks good. It looks
sick. Great. Mine's gonna probably go on my phone because that's the only thing I carry around with me all the time.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, I don't have I've got a phone case, but it's got kind of a weird case, so it's like I don't think the sticker would really stick to it. But
I got you.
Yeah. Well, you got anything else for me, Mason?
That's it, y'all.
That's it.
This is Mason.
This is Adam. Keep on blending.
Keep on blending.
Yeah, we haven't been blending recently, but now we're back to blending.
We're back to blending.
All right, peace, y'all.